Don't say it to his face. Oh, from Brooklyn. Hey, get any.
You're listening to Frankly Speaking Sports with Larry Frank on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm glad to have you back. Sorry we have a little inclement weather here. I guess it knocked out the internet segment of our show. So we're happy to be back on with you. Instead of having a 10-minute delay in the show where there's nothing going on, we decided to start the second part over, which is what we're going to do now. And then we can go back and highlight some of the things that we went ahead and highlighted at the beginning of our show. So thank you all. I know a lot of you are going to see this on the replay now as you were live at first, but we'll go ahead and replay it for you all. This time I want to introduce to you a guy that played for the Tampa Bay Lightning, also played for the LA Kings, the Pittsburgh Penguins, among some other teams. He scored the first goal in Lightning history, had the first hat trick in Lightning history, and he also had the first 4-goal game in Lightning history. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in, as I get my handy-dandy button, Chris KONTOS. Chris, how you doing tonight?
Good, Larry. It's been a while. I think 2 years ago we spoke before the St. Louis final, and I don't know, we should have spoke last year because that was a big year.
Yeah, last year was unbelievable. Unfortunately, some things took some priorities over hockey, as you know, and we didn't get the opportunity. But I'm really happy tonight to have you with us, Chris. And Chris, I want to, it's playoff hockey. I know you follow the Leafs, and we'll get a little bit into that in a little bit as well, how the Leafs are doing, how the Lightning are doing. But you've been involved, and obviously you had one of the best streaks of all time in the playoffs when you were with the LA Kings. Talk about the difference in a player's mentality. You play all season, you play however many games there are. Now it's playoff time. You made it. What's the mindset? What's the mentality of a player now? We got there. Now what are you thinking?
Well, Larry, it's actually a total reset because the regular season's a grind, and 82 games or however many it is it's survival, just keeping healthy, trying to make it to the playoffs. And if you make it to the playoffs, it's a reset. So you strategize about the first series, and round one is probably one of the most exciting series in any sport, just because you've got 16 teams just battling it out. Look at the intensity of the Florida series with Tampa. I mean, I'm watching the Leafs and Montreal, and I mean the intensity is pretty good there. But I've watched some of the series from down south, man, and it's like go. And like I said, it's a reset, and you strategize, and everybody has to buy into whatever a coach is asking you to do, whether it's be a defensive guy or try to get goals or whatever it is. And if you can get all 20 guys doing the same thing at the right time, you can get some success, and that's what guys play for.
And, when you go into hockey, and you just mentioned a little bit about the series down south here, and just like the Lightning, when you look at the Lightning, those first couple of games of the series, and this isn't just the Lightning, but I'm using them as an example, a lot of teams play hockey a certain type of way throughout the entire season. They're successful playing it that way. Then comes playoffs, and they feel like they got to change their game around to try to compete with these teams, whether it be more finesse. In the Lightning case, maybe be a little too physical and get some real idiotic penalties that end up costing them more in the long run. I mean, how do you keep your mind straight of playing that same type of hockey that got you there?
Well, it's a fine line, because sometimes that same mindset doesn't. I mean, the Lightning learned that 3 seasons ago against Columbus, I think, when they looked like the whole Harlem Globetrotters towards the end of the season. They were just killing everybody, and they ran into some adversity, and they learned from it. They didn't know how to change gears and start playing real heavy playoff hockey, but they learned, and luckily they had success last year, and hopefully again this year they'll repeat.
Now, talk about your early career. Here you are, you're signed by, and we talked a little about this last time, by the New York Rangers, okay? Here you are, you're signed by the Rangers, the media center. What was your first thoughts or your feelings when you found out that you were going to be going? They couldn't take it easy on you. They had to put you on the biggest stage at first.
Well, you know what? As a first round draft choice in New York, it's it's a little more difficult than if you went to Winnipeg, let's say. Everybody in New York wants. I mean, 40 years they hadn't had a cup, and they were just starving for success. And as an 18-year-old going in there, looking back, it was tough because they want the finished product. They don't want to take a young kid and develop them for 2-3 years at that level to get them ready. They want the finished product and they want to win. So, looking back, it might not have been the best place to start. It might have been better to go to a smaller market and just, kind of develop in the weeds and then just hone your skills and get better and do your thing. So, I mean, looking back, if I could have done it again, I might not have wanted to. I mean, going to New York was a great place to see and, experience, and Madison Square Garden is still there to this day. And it's, now they have a cup under their belt, some good years and some not so good years. But I mean, New York loves their hockey. Let's all be honest about that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Now, let's talk 88, 89. You're playing with the Kings, okay? And you go on this, I don't know if rampage is the right word, or this unbelievable streak where you can't be stopped. 9 goals, 11 games. I think you recorded 6 power plays in one series, 8 goals in a 7-game span. How did that series, or how did those playoffs actually change? First of all, change the career of Chris KONTOS, and also just change you in general?
Well, I mean, as a first rounder, I mean, I wasn't Wayne Gretzky or Marilyn Lemieux. I didn't have that perfect career that you get taken by a club and you're getting lots of ice time. I mean, it was a grind. It was like you try to do well. If you don't, sometimes they say, okay, kid, back to the minors. Go work on your game, and then they bring you back up. So it's a bit of a roller coaster back and forth, and it's hard mentally because up to that point, you've been the big fish in a little pond, and all of a sudden now you're just a medium-sized fish in a big pond, and it can go either way. So you're always struggling and learning, and luckily I was able to play for 16 years, and I had some super highs, and I also had some lows where just for whatever reason, politics, maybe I wasn't playing well. You get sent to the minors, and that's never fun. It's never fun going in that direction. It's always fun going the other direction. And when I got back to LA, I had played for the Kings the year before, and I think I had a 6-point game against Chicago, goal and 5 assists, and I had 12 points in 6 games. And I thought, man, I've made it. They're going to keep me now, and I'm going to start getting lots of ice time. And it didn't work out. I didn't get the contract that I was hoping to get, and I had to go play in Switzerland for a year. So I went over there. I lit it up over there, and I came back. And at the last minute, I got a call from Rogie Vachon, and he said, we want to sign you for the playoffs. And I signed just under the midnight deadline at a lumber yard here in my local town that had a fax machine back then. And I was able to go down to LA and play a few games before the playoffs, and then I started to get hot before the playoffs, and they just let me go with it.
What do you learn, Chris, from something like, because I know a lot of players throughout their career that have played in the NHL, then they played internationally, and then they came back and played back in the NHL. What are the things that a player can learn from doing that, going to play internationally in these other leagues, maybe even before coming to the NHL?
It's funny, when I came through junior, I wasn't afraid to, like, back then there was a lot of fighting and rough stuff, and I wasn't afraid to do any of that stuff. But I remember as a rookie, I was in Long Island, and Tommy Laidlaw got knocked down, and Bobby Nystrom was kind of over him, kind of giving him the gears a little bit. And I'm 18. I'm not afraid of anybody. I kind of pushed Bobby Nystrom and just like, get out of here. So he grabbed me. I'm not afraid. I dropped my gloves, and he started to throw me around like a rag doll. I couldn't believe how strong the guy was. And I got thrown around like a rag doll in the wind, and there was a big scrum. My guys came in to help me out. I crawled out from beneath the referee's legs out the other side of the scrum, and I got up and I was unscathed, unhurt. And I was just like, oh my God, these big strong guys, they know what they're there for a reason. And I said, I better work on my skill, learn how to get pass, make passes, get goals, like this fighting stuff. Let the fighters fight, and the playmakers got to learn how to play make. So your question about Europe is that I went to Finland first, and then I went to Switzerland, and then back to Sweden. Every time I went, I don't know if you watched Olympic hockey from over there. The arena is bigger, the ice surface is bigger, so there's not as much running into a corner to go grind and hit somebody, because that extra 10 feet gives that guy time to make a pass, and it's just a bit different game. It's not as heavy, but you do have to learn how to make good passes and take passes. So skill development was a major for me. I learned how to control the puck better. Even though I was pretty good at it, I still honed those skills even better, so that every time I came back, if I was put on a power play, I could handle the puck really well and be a top guy if given the opportunity.
You played with two of the, arguably, who I think are the greatest players to ever play the game of hockey, with Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux. I mean, how was it playing with both these guys, and did you see a lot of similarities in them, or was there more differences in them?
Yeah, no similarities with me, but yes, definitely similarities in their
right.
In
That's
in their IQ for the game. Incredible. And Gretz was it was almost telepathic in a sense that he could see the play develop as it was developing, where I wouldn't see it till the pass was made, and they go, oh, that makes sense. So he passed it to that open area, and that guy came right in and made a play and scored a goal, or he just did it, all the time. Mario could do that as well, but Mario had hand-eye coordination that I've never seen before, and by far the best that I've ever seen. And I got to play with Paul Kariya in the Olympics, and Eric Lindros at the 92 national team for Canada, and I've played with a lot of great guys, and Mario was just a phenom, a pure phenom at 6'6", with a wingspan of like 6'6" as well. And you've seen some of his highlights, and just practicing with him, just controlling pucks and pucks flying by him, and him just knocking them down like you'd grab your toothbrush in the morning to brush your teeth. Just he had, the tip of his blade was just like an extension of his body.
Chris, how is it different playing for the NHL or one of these international teams and then playing for your country?
Well, I'm of Greek descent, and I lived in Greece as a 10-year-old, and I remember visiting the Olympic Village and just understanding what the Olympics meant to my Greek culture. And in '92, I was on the national team, and unfortunately, I had a bit of a groin injury, and I was an expendable guy on the way from Sweden down to Albertville, and I didn't get to play. I got released just before the tournament, and they replaced me with Dave Tippett, who's the coach of the Edmonton Oilers now, and Dave Hanna, a guy that played for Pittsburgh for years. But, luckily after my Tampa season, I got another opportunity because the Olympics went from 92 to 94 to offset every 4 years being the same as the summer and the winter Olympics. So I got to go play with Paul Kariya in the '94 Albertville Olympics, and I own a silver medal. We lost in the shootout, unfortunately. I wish it was like an overtime game like it is here in North America. But at the time, I wasn't very thrilled to have a silver because you feel like you lost. But all these years later, I'm very proud to own my own, to have my name on a silver medal, and be a part of the Olympic tradition and program.
Now you're wearing that hat I see over there, Chris.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm
all ready.
You look like you're ready to brawl or something over there.
No,
let me ask you this.
I'm Canadian, and I grew up in Toronto, and I played for the Toronto Marlies, which are the baby Leafs,
right,
before I got drafted. So, I watched Darryl Sittler and Lanny McDonald and all these guys growing up as a kid. So, deep down, I've always been a Leaf fan, but, Tampa's my true love when it comes to the NHL. And I just, I'm always pulling for the Bolts, but our TV is more in tune, and everybody talks about the Leafs
Right.
up here. So, but I do try to watch the Bolts whenever I can.
Well, let's talk about the Bolts and you a little bit. I believe the expansion year. First of all, what made you, in your right mind, decide to go ahead and, after playing and having the success you had with the LA Kings, go to an expansion team that had obviously never played a game yet, never been in existence, and come to the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Well, I'd say that Terry Crisp was a big part of that because if you would look back, he was the assistant coach of the '92 Olympic team, the team that I got cut from at the last minute because of some, players coming in and not knowing if I'd be 100% for the tournament for the Olympics. So Terry knew what I could do. So when he signed on as the coach there, I think he reached out to, or the Esposito brothers reached out to my agent, and we ended up signing there because it was a blank slate, a fresh start. There was no positions that are already taken, and I went in and I had a strong camp, and I was a top scorer in training camp, which afforded me the opportunity to get in the starting lineup, and the rest was history.
Yeah, and it was a heck of a history opening night in the fairgrounds. Expo Hall, I think we called it back then. I remember it. I still got a tape of that entire game here from the Tampa Tribune, still on an those VHS type tapes that we used to have back then. They gave out. But let's talk, before we talk about you and the success you had that game, talk about the atmosphere. Tampa right now, currently today, you take the pandemic away, have one of the most sellouts of any hockey team consecutively. It's close to 300 games. What is it? I mean, talk about the atmosphere that night, because you're coming to a place that not only never had hockey, but you come into a warm weather city where you don't think much about hockey. Think about bathing suits and bikinis and stuff like that. I mean, talk about that night.
Don't forget, I had success in LA, and it was pretty nice weather down there as well.
Right,
so,
that's true.
I think that Tampa area has a lot of transplants from the Northeast, obviously. So there are a lot of people that know about hockey and knew about it, but there were a lot of people that were just learning it. Your Floridians that had lived there their whole life. Because I'll tell you a funny story. My godfather, Gus Panelidis from Clearwater, he was at the game, and when I scored my third goal that night, he's from Pontiac, Michigan. He takes his hat and he throws it on the ice, and one of the ushers grabs him and says, "You out! You can't throw your hat on." And then Espo had seen what was going on, and he had to run up and go, no, that's a hat trick. That's okay. He's allowed to do that. That's the tradition. I mean, and they had to explain what offsides were and icings, but obviously they learned pretty good because Tampa loves their hockey now.
Yeah, now, the first goal in Lightning history, when you look back now on it, 30 years ago or however many years it's been, how more important is it for you now to have scored that first goal than maybe it was at that time?
Yeah, I mean, it becomes history, as you're saying. So, yeah, it's an honor to being out there on that power play or whatever it was that allowed it to happen. And, to be lucky enough to get three more in the same game against Eddie Belfour, who just won the Vezina, was just, I can't explain it, but it was, I'm just proud to be a Bolt and playing at that time. And we laid the foundation, and we're so proud of the way the team is represented now and how good they are, and it's just great.
Yeah, and like you said, you scored 4 goals in that game. Do you remember what it was like after that first win? I mean, here Tampa's never played a game. They win that game convincingly. What was the whole mood and atmosphere like after that win?
Well, the area embraced us big time, and we became like the hot thing to do in the Tampa area. And for the first half of the season, we surprised a lot of teams. Like Crispy he ran a pretty tough ship. Any time a team was going to play us, they knew they're going to have to work hard. It wasn't going to be a cakewalk. So we always worked really hard, and we had a fairly good record, but we weren't loaded with superstars or anything like that. So it was a great group to be with, because all the guys were just meat and potatoes, guys getting a second chance on life in hockey, and it was a lot of fun.
Now, you look at this Lightning team, and I know you get to watch bits and pieces of them. When you look at this Lightning, you know how hard it is for any team in any sport to repeat a championship. What is it about the Lightning that you think can possibly make it a possibility for them to repeat?
Well, they learned a big lesson a few years ago. They won last year, and they weren't healthy for the last half of the season this year, but miraculously now they're healthy, and you can just see they have a swagger and a jump to their step, and they know how to win. So if whoever their next opponent is, I think we find out tonight, I believe, it's going to be back to business, and I think they're gonna just know how to manage it and figure it out. I told you 2 years ago when you asked me about St. Louis, I said their D were big, heavy, and solid, and I thought that was going to be the difference. And I don't know if you remember what happened, but St. Louis went on to win the cup, and it was everybody talked about how big and solid their D were, over 6'3" and 230 pounds, and over the course of a 7-game series, it takes its toll on guys.
Who do you think? I mean, now you could say the Lightning because they're the champions of last year, but if you're looking at this year and you get to watch some of these games, who do you think is the team right now to beat in the NHL?
Colorado. Everybody's talking. I haven't got to see them, but I know that they're so solid, and I haven't got to see them that much, just highlights. But I've heard that they're just solid and fast, and they're playing great.
And how good, in your opinion, you played with and around some great goalies, how good is Vasilevsky?
Oh, well, when he's on, man, like he's so automatic. Like he just makes those incredible saves, and he's consistent, and he's healthy. He's by far one of the best in the league or the world.
Now, we got a guy on, believe it or not, from Canada area named Donnie that has a question that wants to know, how do you think the Maple Leafs, who are, I think they're losing tonight if they were anyway, 3-1.
I don't know if you see my eyes. I'm looking to the left of my TV, and Montreal just scored in overtime. So the series is now 3-2 Leafs, and they go back to Montreal.
Okay. Then his question was, first of all, how do you think the Leafs will win this? And then he wanted to know about two guys individually. One, their goalie, Jack Campbell, who's been playing real well in the playoffs. And then he wants to know what you think of William Nylander.
Well, Campbell, since Anderson went down earlier in the season, he's come in, and the guys have rallied around him, and he's played great. And, other than losing tonight, they got down 3-0 or 3-1. He's been really solid, and he just got beat by Suzuki on a 2-on-1, no chance, like 2-0. So he has been solid, and Nylander, his nickname up here was 7 Mil Will when he signed his contract after holding out for almost half the season. He was by far the best Leaf on the ice. He could have had 3 or 4 goals himself. Carey Price stood on his head. Carey Price, one of the best ever, he is or was the best goalie in the world for the longest time, and then he's kind of struggled the last few years. Maybe the team hasn't been as good, but man, he has been Carey Price of old, just so efficient, so calm, and he earned them the win tonight because he made so many huge saves. And goaltending is what it's all about in the playoffs too.
Yeah, I was just going to say
you get a hot goalie, and you got a better chance of winning. So, yeah.
All right, my friend. Well, listen, I know I took more time than probably allocated, but I want to thank you, as always, so much for joining us on Frankly Speaking Sports, and we're looking forward to the NHL playoffs here.
Awesome. Go Bolts.
Go Bolts. Thanks again,
All right,
buddy.
Larry. Take care. Take care.
Take care. That was all right. Chris Kontos, former Tampa Bay Lightning, Kings, Penguins. I want to thank him very much. For those of you that stood with us through our technical difficulties, I want to thank you very, very much. I'm not sure what we'll do with the first half of it, but, we talked about the first half. We talked about the Lightning yesterday, what they have to do right now. If you didn't hear it from Chris Kontos, the former Lightning, that the Canadians did beat Toronto tonight. So that game is now, that series is now 3-2. We want to thank him very much for updating it. I want to see if we have any other scores here. Right, 4-3, the Canadians beat them. We know that. Right now, the Hurricane and Predators, a lot of you Lightning fans are interested in that game. Carolina leads that series 3-2. Right now, with 15:08 left in the first period, it's Carolina and Nashville tied at 1. So some of you may want to go ahead and catch that game. But we showed you some highlights earlier on the first segment of the show about Maroon, Stamkos point scoring, Vasilevsky, how great he's been, and what the Lightning need to do. Right now, what the Lightning need to do is they need a rest. The best thing that can happen to the Lightning maybe is this series, Carolina versus Nashville, goes 7 games and they just beat the crap out of each other the next 2 games. That way they can go ahead and get beat up and bruised up and then have to come here and play the Tampa Bay Lightning. Lightning, it looks like somewhere around Monday, depending on the outcome of tonight's Carolina-Nashville game. Obviously, if Nashville wins tonight, they would play again Saturday. So I don't see them playing Saturday and then going back right away on Sunday. So that would probably make a Monday start of the series. But, we talked about that third period, and I was talking about that when we went out, when the internet went out and we went down here. But, that was the difference yesterday. The way the Lightning kept the puck in the Panthers zone throughout that third period, instead of having to defend their own zone in front of Vasilevsky, was incredible. And that's why they won the game. That was the difference. It was, call it what you want. It's not a prevent when you're putting pressure constantly on the other team like they were doing, and that's why they won the game. I mean, let's not forget Andre Vasilevsky, how great he's been. And Chris said, you're only as good in the playoffs defensively as your goalie. We've said that for years, and Chris has told us that for years, and he'll continue to tell us that for years. But a great series win by the Lightning, and we'll wait and see if it's Carolina. If I'm I really don't care who we play because it doesn't matter. Whoever you play, you have to win. I think we match up better versus Nashville and are a better team than Nashville. I'm a firm believer that Carolina is one of the better teams in these playoffs right now. And they're one of those teams that can get real streaky and go on a run and could be very, very dangerous. So it'd be nice to see them get knocked out and for us to play the Nashville Predators. But we'll keep you posted. For anybody that does want to call in, I know earlier we lost all signal and everything. There's the phone number. If you want to go ahead and call in, you're more than welcome to. So we want to go ahead and give you that option. We want to thank everybody. Hopefully you got back on Northeast Streaming Sports, Twitch, YouTube. So we want to thank you all there that have been with us. I know we had a nice 25-minute segment there. And then, of course, we had this segment. We wanted to make sure that we got the interview with Chris KONTOS in. What a great interview. You got to hopefully take some things away, learn a little about the playoffs. When it comes to playoffs, I mean, Chris KONTOS, 9 games, 11 goals in 9 games, something like that. 6 power play goals in one series to bring them back from a 3-1 deficit versus Edmonton. I mean, the guy just a big stud when it came to NHL players in the playoffs, and he lived for those big moments. He proved that here when he came to Tampa, Game 1. The first goal, the first hat trick, first 4-goal game in the history of the Lightning. I mean, that just doesn't happen magically. That's somebody who did his time. And like he said, not everybody comes out of Mario Lemieux or Wayne Gretzky and from the beginning, bam, 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 bam. It doesn't happen. It took him a little time. He was in New York, the Big Apple, under the media scrutiny. And, first round pick. I mean, so much pressure on the guy. And, you love listening to stories like this where a guy, perseverance takes control. It goes ahead of everything. And I'm real happy for him. And he got to play for his country. These players will tell you, and everybody we talk to that gets that opportunity to play for their country, to a lot of them, it's even better than playing in the NHL. I mean, it's just an honor for them to be able to represent. And when they do, it's something they'll tell you, it's a lifelong memory that they take to the grave with them. And, he didn't win the gold medal, but I think he said he won a silver or bronze medal, but still, he got to play for his country. Once again, if you want to call in, we got about 5-10 minutes left in the show. 813-922-9810 is our number here. For those of you that stuck with us through the technical difficulty, we want to thank you so very, very much for doing so. And I do apologize for that. But we got back up here and we were able to go ahead and get the show going. Want to thank Tommy for calling in tonight. Had a real good call with Tommy. Unfortunately, it was cut short a little bit due to the internet going down. Not sure how many people got back on, but we were on a lot of different platforms early, I know. So we will once again have the ability to do this again. So want to thank you all very, very much for tuning in this evening, and we'll see you again. We're going to go ahead and cut it short because we did a half hour the first segment, a half hour the second segment, so we don't want to take too much time of the certain networks who only given us an hour. So for those of you that went ahead and stuck with us, thank you very much, and we'll see you again on the next episode of Frankly Speaking Sports.